have our second to last session of Ignite. We're getting there, believe it or not. I know. Good morning, Prashant. How are you?
Good.
I know it's been a long 4 weeks, but I've certainly heard a lot of good news stories along the way. So it's awesome part of the work so far. And the good news is, after Friday, our final session, we're going to kick off another phenomenal program. So if you think the results and momentum you built right now are good, wait till you compound them with the Bold program. So it's going to be awesome. Anyway, before we dive into today's topic, which is close the deal, I'm just looking for any good news stories regarding how the daily 10-4 has been going for you. Phone calls, meetings, are you finding prospects? Are you uncovering business? I know Christine kind of already shared earlier how one phone call led to, kind of 4 potential prospects or business, which is awesome. Been doing a great job reaching out and making the phone calls, which isn't always exciting, but once you do it, sometimes it's more fun than you think, especially when you start uncovering the deals. So very good. Anybody else? Anything? Maybe it sounded like it was going to be good, but no dice. Okay. How are we?
I found a really good business card reader. So when I meet people,
There you
I
go.
just take a picture of it and it just throws it in the database.
Cool. That's awesome.
Card scan and Palo. I did.
That's okay.
There's a lot of them. But yeah, there's good tools to
Sure.
help us move faster.
How many of us are kind of consistently making 10 contacts a day? And then Bold is 20 a day, just to help your five or six. Hey, better than 0. If you're not hitting 10, don't be down on yourself. Obviously, some room for improvement, but don't. I mean, 1 is better than 0, let alone 10.
So I hate to tell this story, but
But I'm gonna tell it anyway.
but I had to stop in our local liquor store to pick up some beer when I walked in.
No, that's a
The
great
lady was talking to the owner, and I know them, they're from our town, and she was talking about, oh, my husband, he's all worried about how many acres. I'm more worried about the house and the type of house, whatever. And I didn't know her, and I said, oh, really? I said, you looking to buy a house? She goes, yes. Well, guess what? I'm a realtor. I ran out to my car, got some pens and some cards, and she's a lender, and I'm like, well, there you go. You help me, I'll help you.
Awesome.
Yeah, and then I saw her at church that Sunday, and she's like,
Did you really? Oh, that's a miracle.
I know.
Very cool.
Cool.
So I'll share a similar story that Tim O'Connor told me. He was at Verizon, doing his phone thing, whatever, and then as he left, he gave his card to the guy who was helping him at Verizon. He said, hey, just I like to say this. I said, hey, thanks for your help. I would love to return the favor. I don't know if that's what Tim said or not, but he gave the guy his card and said, yeah, if you ever need help with buying or selling property, feel free to give me a call. Well, as he was saying that to the guy working at Verizon, the guy's manager at Verizon overheard Tim say that and said, hey, really, you're a realtor. We're actually looking at maybe buying a house. Well, Tim he told me this last week, and this morning he just told me he got him under contract on a new construction home, like within a week. And here's the weird thing about that though. We always see that as one of those stories like, oh God, that's one of those crazy stories that never happens to me, or it's kind of a one-off thing. But not really, because you just shared another one, right?
Yeah.
It's just letting people know or being in tune to it and saying, hey, this is what I do. I'd love to help you, right? As opposed to, because you could have done something different. Tim could have done something different. He could have said, oh my gosh, that's cool. Here's my card. Call me if you need anything. Instead, he said, let's talk about that. I'd love to help you. When can we get this going potentially? And, already under contract within a week. So sometimes when we talk about our business and deals and how many we can do and our income and stuff like that, it seems so insurmountable. Honestly, you just have to have enough conversations. It is a numbers game. You talk to enough people about real estate and you're going to uncover the deals. I know having that conversations isn't necessarily fun because it's work. It's work. It takes work to get out there and talk to 10 people a day or 20 people a day, right? It's not easy. But if you're diligent and disciplined about doing it, you're going to uncover a good amount of business. Anybody else have anything to say? No? Okay. Well, thanks for letting me share that, and I'm sure Tim's cool with me sharing that story. So today, the topic is close the deal. So the last few days, we've actually been talking about, we talked about winning sellers, and then coming up with some great negotiation tactics. How do we make it a good offer? How do we bring it together? Now we're going to talk about closing the deal on that offer. So today's expectations: know the basic steps in the contract and close process. Identify your contract and close responsibilities for representing buyers and sellers. explore common issues that can occur in the contract to close process, as well as workable solutions. A little bit of discussion about how you can leverage your resources, and then implement post-close systems that ensure referrals for the long term and win clients for life. Like number 5, this is on page 5, number 5, I would like circle, star, highlight, underline, because that is one of the most critical, crucial portions of a transaction. And there's so many of us out there that once we're done and we close on the home, very rarely do we ever reach out to that person again, right? Or maybe they just get something from us annually, an email or something. When in reality, what we've just done, more so than a real estate transaction, especially if it's somebody that we didn't know beforehand, what we've just done is developed a relationship. And we want to continue to invest in and strengthen that relationship over the long run of our business, because let's do some simple math. You know, if you're starting a real estate career and you intend to do it for 2 or 3 decades, you know, how many deals are you potentially going to be doing over that amount of time? And if you take each one of those deals and build it into a strong relationship and leverage that into more referrals and repeat business, well, over the course of 10, 20, 30 years, we're talking an immense amount of business, right? An immense amount of business, an untapped gold mine if you're not consistently marketing to and staying in touch with those people. So really keep that in the back of your mind as we talk about that portion today. Moving on to page 9. Let's talk about another script. A script for people outside your area. Hello, this is Zach. I know it's been a while since we've been in touch. As you know, I'm still in wherever I happen to live. I've been busy growing my real estate business with Keller Williams. I wanted to ask a favor. You know, when people moving all around the country and becoming more global, I wanted to check with you about a couple of things. One, do you know of anyone looking to move to my area, or know of anyone who is moving out of my area? Second, I can help people where you live with their real estate needs by referring them to the best Keller Williams agent in the area, or just the best agent in the area. That way, I know that we're professionally represented at a high level. Can you think of anybody that might need help with some real estate? This is obviously geared toward referrals, potentially. Thank you for helping me out. I'd like to share my app with you. Okay, you can go down the route if you want to. Basically, what this is encouraging you to do, and here's a couple of takeaways from this script here is, chances are you know a lot of people, right? But everybody you know might not be just here in Rochester, might not just be in Red Wing, right? It might not just be in Austin. Probably know people all over the place. So why aren't we also still viewing them as a business opportunity? I'll use myself as an example. So I went to high school in Lakeville, graduated, a while ago, and part of my process of reaching out to people and building my database and strengthening relationships was going back, and I literally pulled out yearbooks, and I had my assistant. I said, "Here's my yearbook. Go through my Facebook, and everybody I'm not already friends with, friend them." Right? And then I said, "Now here's what we're going to do. We're going to reach out to all of them with the same message, and it's going to say, hey, I hope all is well. It's a shame we lost touch. I'd like to reconnect." And then we just built upon that. So the people that were in the area, we went and had coffee. People that were outside the area, I took phone calls of. And let me tell you about one phone call in particular. This was a guy who lives out in California, right? So you would think, oh, so some people are tempted, oh, well, these people are out of state or they're not in the area, so let's just scrub them from the list, not even talk to them, right? It doesn't make sense. But anyway, we called him. His name is Mike. He got the email and said, "Hey, we'd love to catch up. I can take a phone call this day, this time." So he's out in California. I'm here in the Twin Cities, and we're chatting. And he just catching up a little bit. He says, "Hey, it's been really great to talk to you. I should let you know, my wife, she's going to be finishing up some school here this year, and we plan to move back to the cities after that. We'd love to get in touch with you when that time comes, so that we can start the process of looking for homes when we move back." Right? I'm thinking to myself, yes, it worked. But that was my aha, is if people are outside Minnesota, that doesn't mean I should just neglect them, right? Those people can still easily get a monthly newsletter. They can still get called at least once a quarter just to see how things are going. Because Mike also has what back in Minnesota? Family and friends, right? So we can have a lot of the same conversations, right? And there's still potential there to do business, and I can still bring value to him, right, and the people that he knows. So don't discount or count people out if they're outside of the immediate area. There's still a lot of opportunity. Okay? Does that make sense? Just figure out how you can approach it. And then when people come in to meet with us for a buyer consultation, one of the very last questions says, do you know of anybody who is looking to buy or sell anywhere? Because we have a network of agents all across the country that we can help put them in touch with, can help put whoever in touch with a great agent who will make sure they're well taken care of, right? So always be attuned to the fact that you can earn referrals. Anybody here ever earn a referral check? No? Well, I'll tell you, let's make it a goal to earn one by the end of the year. Make that a personal goal for yourself. Nothing is more fun than getting a referral check. Why do you think I say that?
Out of nowhere.
Because you literally almost do nothing. You connect two people. You make a phone call. You don't have to do any of the showings or any of the hard work. And sometimes you even forget about it. And then a few months later, what can be a pretty nice sizable check will sometimes show up. You're like, oh, that's nice. Better not tell my wife about that. No, just kidding. Just kidding. She already knows about it. She's tracking it. Yeah, don't discount referral opportunities. Huge opportunity for you. And also setting yourself up and marketing yourself for referrals. Because what's a great source of a network that you guys can all tap into and overnight probably start getting referrals for your business here in Southeast Minnesota.
Agents from Austin, Winona,
In the Twin Cities.
Twin Cities.
Absolutely. How many Keller Williams agents do we have up there? A ton. How many agents, period, are up there? A ton. Yeah, too many. I agree with that statement. Letting them know that you're the Rochester person is huge. They're not driving down here and showing properties. And if you're the only agent that pops up in mind and they're tuned into referral business, well, guess what? You're going to get a phone call. I wish Debbie Benson was here. I would ask her how many referrals deals did she do last year. I bet you it's close to a handful because she goes and networks with the agents in the cities all the time. If there's an event, she goes. And when they hear Rochester, they're like, oh, Debbie Benson. And she's the only one that shows up to stuff, right? So she gets a decent amount of business from it. Okay, so that's kind of the purpose behind that script. So turn to page 11, get your head in the game. Closing is not an event. It is a complex process that involves a series of steps, multiple parties, and a myriad of details. Do you guys agree with that statement? Can you tell me why? It's not an event. It's a complex process that involves a series of steps, multiple parties, and a myriad of details.
Lots to be done.
Absolutely. Anybody have, I'm not going to ask you to share any unless you really want to, any horror stories about the closing process?
Oh, yeah.
Liz, I can't wait to tell them. Closing is, I feel like a lot of times as agents, I'm just speaking in generality here, we get a contract together and we're kind of like, whew, we sit back in our chair and we're like, yes, we brought the deal together, we're good to go. And in reality, the work is just beginning, right? Nowadays, getting a property under contract is a little bit more difficult than it has been in the past because there's so many multiple offers. But once you win that initial battle, what you're really starting is the entire process, right? Now we have to actually double down, roll up our sleeves, and work to get it closed. So that's why we can't just sit back and think to ourselves, under contract, good to go. Okay, no, we have to get this thing to a successful closing. We had got a phone call yesterday, Carly did, from the listing agent on a property that we represent the buyer of, and she said, hey, I'm calling because appraisal was just canceled. My sellers are kind of worried, what's going on. And it was like, in the evening, so Carly's like, hey, nothing that I'm aware of. I'll call the lender, I'll call the buyer, check and let you know as soon as I hear something. But the lady kept calling back because she was kind of freaking out, and Carly's like, hey, I will let you know as soon as I hear something. We talked the next morning with the lender. Hey, there's an issue with some cash reserves, blah, blah, blah. The underwriter caught it, flagged it, canceled it because we didn't want to charge the buyer. Potentially, it just isn't going to go through. But in more conversations, we got some no BS assessments from everybody. Hey, we're going to be just fine. But that's one of those things that stuff comes up in between contract and closing that you have to figure out and work through it and calm people down. Hey, don't freak out. We're sure everything's okay. Let's make some phone calls and we'll find out before you get too alarmed. So just kind of keeping that stuff in mind as you work to close these stuff. This is where you can truly shine as a customer experience professional. It's very, very true. A lot of times you get those frustrating curveballs thrown your way during the closing process, and we shy away from them. We don't want to deal with them. They're just terrible. But in reality, if you kind of embrace those things, you rise to the occasion and you solve them, you communicate with your client the entire time, and if your client sees you solving problems and working through issues on their behalf, that's a huge win for you. Because what you're doing is you're strengthening that relationship by providing a phenomenal customer experience and an awesome service, right? So anytime you have a win, call and let your client know about it. I think sometimes we do a pretty poor job letting our clients know what we're doing for them behind the scenes, right? If you represent a buyer, you negotiate a deal on a property, and the appraisal comes back $5,000 more than the sale price, that should be a phone call. Why do you think I say that? Absolutely. Hey, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, this is Zach. I just wanted to call you and give you some great news. Just so you know, when you close on your home, you're instantly going to have $5,000 worth of equity. Well, what do you mean? Well, your appraisal came back and it appraised $5,000 higher than what you bought it for, which means you're getting a smoking deal. I'm very, very happy for you. I'm glad we were able to make that happen. Right? Well, what would now be a great time to bring up? John?
Up my commission a little bit.
There you go. There you go. How about you give me a gift?
You know that he's
By the
got a
way,
great deal.
there you go. Right in there for who else do you know?
Some equity.
Right. Who else do you know that might be able to benefit from something like that? Right. So that's why good news opportunities are awesome. Call and live with good news and say, hey, well, by the way, so while I have you on the phone and while you're super happy right now, do you know of anybody else that we can help in a similar fashion? Right. It's your job to ensure that all steps are completed on time and all parties are aware of their roles and what's expected of them. Essentially, your role becomes that of a project manager, in addition to being a knowledgeable and calm fiduciary for your client. You cannot stress calm. That's a poor choice of words. I cannot emphasize calm any more than you just can't overemphasize it. Being that calming factor, that calming influence as you're moving from start to finish. I took a phone call yesterday from a buddy of mine that's working with Carly, and with multiple offers right now, sometimes when a buyer gets a home under contract and they win, do they maybe start having second thoughts or regrets about what they ultimately paid for it? Absolutely. Absolutely. I said, are you kidding me? We pulled out all the stops to help you with this offer. Now I'm getting a phone call from you because you're paranoid or thinking that you may be overpaying for the home. So the appraisal came back right at contract sale price. And he goes, how often does that happen? I said, well, pretty often. They have a copy of the purchase agreement. If the appraiser goes in and everything looks okay, it's more than likely going to end up at the contract sale price. Or less, if they see an issue. And, you could just tell he was not necessarily thrilled with the fact that they're ended up paying what they're paying for the property, this, that, and the other. Decided to kind of calm him down and say, here's the deal. The job of the appraiser is to make sure that you're not overpaying for the property. If it came back at contract sale price, that means they're pretty confident that you're paying in line with market value. Otherwise, I would have had it come in less than that. So, you should take comfort in that. Just calming them down, helping them work through it, and explaining to them how it works. And even though we explained it to them usually 2 or 3 times by then, just helping them realize everything's fine. Think about, your new home in the long run and all that kind of stuff. So I like the fact that they use the analogy of a project manager, because that's really what you become. A less poetic term would be you are the whip cracker. It's literally your job to crack a whip on everybody involved in that transaction to move them all forward to meet all their time hacks and their close on time. Who are you cracking a whip on mostly? Your lender. Absolutely. Cracking a whip on the lender. And because there are a lot of great lenders out there, don't get me wrong, some phenomenal lenders. There's also a lot of lenders out there that are extremely disorganized, right? And or they're slow, or they're I can't think of the right term, but their customer here it is. Their customer service suffers because they're so successful, right? They're so darn busy. They're just churning and burning deals. This is some agents too, by the way. They're just churning and burning that the customer service completely slips through the cracks and they miss stuff. Because in their mind, like some agents, once it's under contract, they're like, okay, the bulk of it's done. Now I'm moving on to the next deal, Well, no, we got a lot of stuff that has to be circled back around on and completed in order to close this thing on time, right? So it's your job to stay in touch with them and make sure they're hitting those time hacks, commitment letters, appraisals, etc., for both the listing agent and the buyer's agent. I learned that the hard way the first couple of years in the business, and now we take a very proactive approach. I mean, we probably have conversations with lenders 3 or 4 times a week, each week up until closing. Either just checking in or confirming the appraisal or saying, hey, the appraisal was done a couple days ago. Do we have it back yet? Hey, the appraisal was done 3 days ago. Do we have it back? Like, we don't let them forget anything, right? But we don't even give them that opportunity. So it's incumbent upon you to do that. And the same with the title company. Although my experience has been that most title companies are pretty good, but sometimes you need to kick them in the butt to get you the closing documents and stuff with enough time to actually review it before you close. But some of that is because they're waiting on the lender to give them information and vice versa, right? So keeping that in mind and helping and prodding everybody else to get to a successful closing is huge. And by the way, it gives you opportunities to speak with them and bring up what?
Referrals.
Absolutely. I know it sounds stupid, but absolutely. Carly told me a good story yesterday. She's working on a listing in Minneapolis for somebody. It's a gentleman who owns a property. It's a rental. So he has a property management company that we've been working with as well. They had to come in, repaint it and stuff like that. So Carly's been calling them, remember, being proactive, saying, hey, is it ready yet? Is it ready yet? Is it ready yet? Is it painted? Hey, we're going to list it Friday. Is everything going to be ready? Okay, I'll call you Friday to check in as well. Well, she called one of the women at the property management company, and in the course of that conversation, learned that that gal has a sibling who's looking to sell and buy. So Carla's like, sweet, what's his information? I'd love to help him and set that up, right? So taking an absolutely mundane, regular check-in phone call, but having the conversation or asking a couple of additional questions actually turn it into a potential deal or two, right? Anytime you're calling or talking to somebody, explore all those opportunities because they're there. And unless you bring it up, they're not just going to magically drop them, right? In a successful contract to close process, 1, the transaction closes on time as expected, no kidding. Number 2, the process is smooth and painless for all parties involved. Okay, we could probably do some improvement on that one. And number 3, you win future business due to your 10++ customer experience. And that's the real focus. That's the real absolute focus. Let's move on to page 12. On your way to payday. Congratulations, you've reached a critical moment in the lead to close process, closing a transaction and getting paid. You've also achieved a monumental milestone for your client. You've gotten their home sold or you've gotten their dream home. The first part of the real estate sales process is the hard, focused work of making connections and achieving agreements. The second part is the wide-eyed, vigilant guardianship of the transaction until it makes it to closing. First, we got to get it under contract, and then we got to actually push it forward and close that sucker. Then moving on to page 13, make it happen. Know the process. Systems equal success. Seize the golden opportunity and get paid. So knowing the process. Closing, sometimes known as settlement, is a detail-driven process that brings together a variety of parties to legally finalize the sales transaction. Depending on the specific details and location of the transaction, the parties to the sale may include the following. Okay, buyers, how many times do we have to kind of shepherd them along the way? We had one very recently where the buyer was just terrible about giving stuff to the lender, right? We'd call in and check in with the lender, hey, so-and-so, they just haven't gotten this back to me. I'm waiting to get this pay stub, I'm waiting to get this updated document or bank statement, whatever. So we actually had to reinsert ourselves and take a more active role, like kicking the guy in the butt to get all the info, right? And Carly was at one point, she was like, hey, he's not responding to me, will you reach out to him? And I said, sure. So sometimes it just takes somebody else getting in the mix to help, keep pushing it forward. Otherwise, we're not going to hold on. So, dude, let's make it happen. You know what I mean? Like, this requires your participation as well. Other agents, anybody ever had a transaction where they dealt with another agent who, Melissa already knows what I'm going to say, they just stopped communicating with you, or were just terrible communicators. Let's hear some of those stories. Melissa?
I'm laughing because I'm in the midst of a transaction and an amendment went through. It was a few weeks ago. It was just a simple remove contingency. I didn't get it back signed by the sellers for like a week. And she didn't really I mean, great thanks was the instant response, and then and just she's the one who posted the picture of the wrong property and
Right.
had the map in the wrong place. But
Gotcha. Yeah, sounds like a fun one.
yeah,
Anybody else? You all working with great agents.
No.
What do you got?
Well, we just have some unethical people that work in,
Unethical stuff going on?
oh dear Lord. Yeah, in fact, I have, the house I have listed in Leroy right now, the the mother died, and they said she would roll over in her grave if we contacted
Contacted what?
Queensland's LRM. Yeah,
What's
just
that?
not
Contact who?
LRM, Land Resource Management, Grand Meadow. Can I say that?
Yeah.
They kind of use snakes.
Gotcha. So I've experienced it as well, where sometimes you just have, it's almost like a stalemate, and you need something done, or you need something signed, or you need a response, and you're not getting it, right? So figuring out ways of how we can, what are some other levers we can pull, right? Because you don't want to pull them immediately, but if you have somebody and you're not getting a response at all, what are some things that you could potentially do? I'm always a fan of calling. You know what I mean? That's a huge one. A lot of times people will tell me, well, so-and-so won't get back to me, they're not responding to me or whatever, and I'll say, well, have you called them? And they're like, well, no. I'm like, well, why don't you pick up the phone and call? And then inevitably, that usually does the trick, right? Because nowadays people just like to email or text or whatever, and that's fine. Usually that works just fine, but every once in a while, just call. Or if like, hey, we need an immediate answer to this, or this. Okay, well, let me text them. Well, why don't you just call them? Let's just figure it out. Just give them a phone call, right? You can try calling them, but if they're being non-responsive, period, what are some other things you can do? Yeah, if you need to reach out to somebody, you can certainly do that. If I'm trying to get a hold of a buyer's agent to ask questions about their buyer's financing or about an appraisal, I'm just going to go straight to the lender. I don't care. I have no qualms about doing that. And sometimes I will direct, the listing agent is asking me a ton of questions about appraisal. I'll just say, talk to the lender. You don't need to insert me in the mix of this. The lender can easily answer questions like that. And hey, when is the appraisal scheduled for? Or when are you guys planning on just call the lender directly. Don't even ask me, because what am I going to say? I don't know. Let me talk to the lender, right? So there's other ways you can go about it. Maybe you make some phone calls to some people instead. What else can you do? If it's agent specific.
Other broker.
Yeah, you can elevate it a little bit. Like I said before, it might not be the first thing that you do, but if you're not getting results, if you're not getting information or questions answered that you need in order to close, contact a broker or have our broker contact a broker, right? And I know it's like, oh gosh, I really don't want to do that, but at the end of the day, we owe our clients a fiduciary duty, and it's our job to keep moving things along and get questions answered and keep prodding things. So if we need to, you can do it in a very professional, tactful way. Hey, I know so-and-so is super busy, or maybe something happened, I'm not sure. I'm trying to get some information from them. If you could just pass along a message to them to respond to me sooner rather than later, this has the potential of delaying our deal. That would be very much appreciated and help. Because once somebody gets contacted by their broker, they will usually start responding pretty quickly, right? Not that it's a big deal, but it's just like, okay, gotta leave it dial it. We talked about the lender, the closing company, family and friends, seller, potentially an attorney. I think we still see some of that in this area, but really not that much. Usually it's just the title company, members of your team or an assistant, third parties, and the market center staff, etc. As a project manager of the transaction, make it your responsibility to ensure that all parties know what's expected of them and deliver on their commitments on time. You gotta hold them accountable. Hey, buyer's agent, you owe me an earnest money check. It's the last day. At this point, I'm assuming you're gonna drive it to my office, right? Because one thing I know about people, especially real estate agents, I say this with love, is if you give them an inch, they will take a what? They will take a mile. If you give them an inch, they're going to take a mile, right? That goes for kind of for some people in general, but in this industry, if you give them an inch, sometimes you're going to try to keep getting it, but hold them accountable. Hey, here's the deal. You know what? I know it's tough. I know you're super busy, but here's the deal. Always blame your broker. My broker is an absolute stickler for all the timelines and stuff. So we really need you to have it delivered today. Otherwise, it's gonna be flagged in our system, cause a bigger headache for you and for the county board, right? If it's a true emergency, can I come meet you somewhere? Check. And what can your client bring into the office, right? There's no such thing as over communication. I 100% agree on that, and your clients agree on it even more so. They love to be communicated with, even if a communication is there's no update. That's huge, because that's what they want to hear. Hey, no update, no change, nothing big going on. We'll check in with people on a weekly basis, and sometimes it's, hey, just checking in, no change, nothing's happening, nothing major, we're still on track. You just send that email, as opposed to being radio silence, right? Goes a long way with both. Clearly outline the role and responsibility you own, set expectations with all parties involved about how and when things will happen, and be the go-to resource and problem solver when needed, reassure your client and other parties throughout the process. So let's talk a little bit about communication in general and how we can approach that, or how we can systematize that within our business. So if you have clients, whether it's a buyer or seller, what have you, what do you think is maybe a reasonable amount of time to check in with them on like a what kind of basis? At least a weekly basis. I would agree. That's something I subscribe to in my business as well. So let's talk about that. If we say, oh, okay, weekly check-ins are kind of part of my job or what I do with my clients, how can we really kind of build that into our schedule? What might that look like for you and your business, weekly check-ins?
One of your mornings time blocked to
Absolutely.
call through your
Absolutely.
client list.
Maybe it's Friday, right? Maybe every Friday, this hour from 11 to noon or 10 to 11 every Friday, that's blocked out as current client check-in time. And it can be a part of your lead generation time, because when you're calling them, having those conversations and giving them updates, what else are you doing? Yeah, you're asking, hey, do you know of anybody else who can help right now, right? I mean, that's an easy 2-for-1 special. You're calling for a reason to give them an update. You have a reason to call them. And throughout the course of the conversation, you can still keep it short and sweet. You can always put it, hey, while I've got you on the phone, I know we're closing in a couple weeks. Just wondering if there's anybody else that you might know that we could help. Since you're going to be off of our books in just a couple of weeks, we're always looking for great clients to, backfill our current great clients. Do you know of anybody that we, can potentially start helping? Right? Easy. Build it into your schedule, systematize it, and make it a part of your lead generation. 2-for-1 special. You look at page 14, it's kind of got the process laid out. This is not a bad graphic to share with clients, right? Let them know how cumbersome the process is. Christine, when you're talking with for sale by owners, and they think they know everything there's to know about real estate transactions, if you meet with them, even for 5 or 10 minutes, and you leave with them some documents and stuff that look like this, or some value-added material, they're gonna think, oh my God, look at this. What even is a closing disclosure? I don't know what that is. Maybe working with or having some more conversations with Christine makes some sense. We might actually need a real estate professional to help us with this, right? And if they tell you, oh no, by the way, homes are selling like hotcakes right now, we don't need you, which we know is the wrong answer. What can you then steer the conversation toward? Okay, here's the deal. If you're not interested in helping having an agent list your home, that's fine. If you ever change your mind on that, please let me know. But let me ask you this. When you sell this home, I'm assuming you're going to buy another one. Well, yeah, that's the plan. Outstanding. I just so happen to help people buy homes free of charge. I'd love to be your buyer's agent. Would that be of interest to you? I can take a ton of stuff off your plate and let you know about all the properties that are available for sale. That's an easy way to at least get your foot in the door and establish a working relationship. And though, by the way, once they do surrender, they decide they don't want to sell on their own, they're naturally going to go to you because you've already built that relationship and they've kind of agreed to hire you as their buyer's agent, right? So it's another tactic you can take with that. Page 15. Steps in the basic contract to close process. Number one, offer. Contract proposal from the buyer received by the seller through their agent, extending terms, et cetera, et cetera. We kind of know that. Acceptance, we know what that is. Same with the counteroffer. Rejection, hey, not necessarily a big deal. If somebody rejects, we can either A, move on to another property, or B, let's re-offer and show them we're more serious with it, up on the price. Inspection, we know what that is. We know how we reply, how we renegotiate some of that stuff. Let's talk about clear title a little bit. So the first few steps, all the way up to the inspection, kind of happen almost within like the first 2 weeks. Would you agree? So within the first 2 weeks, we've come to terms, we've done some negotiating, we had the inspection, we've renegotiated the inspection, and now we're still moving forward. But what still has to happen in the meantime? There are a couple of other key events that still need to occur to be able to close.
Appraisal.
The appraisal is the big one. It's going to come almost immediately next, right? So if that comes back good, then what else has to happen?
Loan escrow.
Yep, we usually have to get a commitment letter or underwriting has to get final approval. But what else? Which a lot of times just gets taken care of, but we don't ever really think about it. It actually has to happen. We've covered the financing aspects. We talked appraisal.
The clear title.
Clear title. The title company is actually doing something, believe it or not, hopefully. They're doing some research on the property and confirming the title is clear. Has anybody ever received a hiccup from a title company? Any hiccup at all? Anybody ever found out that there's an assessment on the property that nobody was tracking because the title company didn't research a flag? Anybody encountered that before? So there's going to be a lot of things that your title company is going to be researching that they might uncover and bring up, and it's going to have to get discussed. One of them might be an assessment that nobody was tracking. It could be that there's some taxes that are owed. It could be a legitimate title issue where, hey, it's not clean title, or hey, we just discovered there's another party that has an interest in the property and we need to figure this out. So, but the tricky thing is your appraisal and your underwriting issues and your title issues, those don't get uncovered until
During that contract to close period.
yeah, until you're kind of well into the closing period, right? We might be a month or more into this process and this is just now getting uncovered, right? So now it's, during the inspection, if something goes wrong, what do you typically do? If you can't negotiate and reach an agreement, what do you typically do? You cancel and say bye-bye, adios, right? Because at that point in time, it's still early enough in the process to where the seller and the buyer, they really haven't initiated movement on anything significant regarding their move or packing things or selling sometimes, right? They're still waiting to see if it's a sure thing. But once you move beyond that, once you move beyond the appraisal, and we're talking, 2 to 3 weeks out from closing, if stuff is just now getting uncovered, well, we don't always necessarily have an easy option just to cancel, right? Even if both parties are like, hey, let's just cancel, well, that's not necessarily going to solve a lot of issues, right? Because people have begun packing, they've moved, maybe the buyers just sold their property as well. Sellers may have just bought another property, right? So this is a critical period in which our problem-solving skills and creative solutions often have to be found, because when you're 2-3 weeks out from closing, you can't necessarily stop on a dime and just say, we're done with this one. You have to find a way to get that sucker closed. So, working through some of that stuff, ensuring that it has a clear title is crucial. Buyer and seller have an opportunity to review a preliminary report of title that reflects whether any encumbrances, liens, or other issues have been discovered that might prevent the buyer from taking clear title to the seller's property, right? And I feel as realtors, we're pretty good at the lending side of things and working an appraisal and getting that commitment letter and stuff. We're pretty good at working through the inspection stuff, but I think the title stuff is it's kind of one of those hand wave things, right? And what's that?
Thank God.
Yeah, right. For the most part, if you have a good title company, right? But for the most part, we're like, we're gonna negotiate, we're gonna have an inspection, we'll get your appraisal, get underwriting, then the title company will do its thing, and then we'll close, right? But what does that mean? What does the title company's gonna do its thing actually mean, right? And what could happen during that process? And are you using a good, reputable title company or attorney to help you through it so that you're gonna be able to resolve issues? It's huge. So staying in touch with title and asking them questions is good, because I guarantee you, title companies, title companies, you might close 3 or 4 deals a month. How many deals does a title company close a month? Yeah, if they're a good company, we're talking a ton, right? So they're very much doing this. They have all their closings on their books, right? But they're not turning their attention to closings until like how far out from closing? Probably like a week, right? Probably like a week, okay, unless they're slow. So they're gonna maybe start uncovering some pretty crucial stuff, danger close to closing, right? So it would be incumbent upon you to politely call your title company, 4, 3, 2 weeks out, and just how are we looking? Any issues regarding title? Have you guys already run your search regarding assessments? Just check in with them and ask them, help them, get you that information sooner rather than later, right? Because if you're constantly calling and they have, if we've got 20 closings that we're starting to line up, but we know that this agent is calling us repeatedly. Yeah, we might bump theirs, we might prioritize theirs or make theirs first, right? Which is going to help you in the long run. So keep that in mind. Loan underwritten and funded. While the buyer and their agent have lead responsibility here, notice it says the buyer and their agent have lead responsibility. The listing agent also has a responsibility to the seller to assure that the buyer's loan is processing with all due haste, and that it will fund for closing in a timely manner. So as a buyer's agent, obviously, if we're doing our job, we're having constant conversations with the lender, right, John? That's just what we do. But if it's a listing agent, sometimes we just kind of throw our hands in the air, like, hey, we've got this under control. It's up to the lender and the buyer's agent to make. No. It's your job too. You'd be calling, asking questions, and steering that process forward. And oh, by the way, usually if you're the listing agent and you're making those kind of phone calls, what are you doing?
You're networking with another lender.
That's true. And I'll tell you what I'm doing. I'm just sniffing around to see if anything smells funny. That's what I'm doing. If I get a lender on the phone and I'm asking them just a couple of simple questions and they're hemming and hawing or giving me kind of non-responsive or non-committal answers, now I'm like, okay, something's going on here. So I'm going to call the agent. And I'm going to see, number one, does the agent even know what's going on? And number two, do they seem the same way? Because there'll be a lot of times where the lender, because they have real visibility on that loan, there might be some weird stuff going on and they're just keeping it to themselves. Or if they're a good lender, there might be some weird stuff going on and they've done the right thing and they let the buyer's agent know. But the buyer's agent is just sitting on that information, and hasn't necessarily communicated it, for good or for worse. Who knows what the situation is. But as a listing agent, if you're calling and you're asking these questions, you're going to uncover much sooner any potential issues than all of a sudden the day before closing, people call you and say, well, hey, just to let you know, this was an issue. We were working on it for the last couple of weeks, but we're able to get it resolved. Well, hang on. Number one, what do you mean we're not going to get it resolved? Number two, what do you mean you've been working on it for the last couple of weeks? Why am I just now hearing about this? Well, you never called us, first off. Oh, wait a minute, right? So make sure as a listing agent you're having those phone calls and calling and checking in. Page 16, other escrow instructions. Either or both parties may be given the title and or escrow company special instructions about disbursement of funds. Both agents have a responsibility to make sure any questions about disbursement details are answered to avoid last minute. I can't tell you how often our weekly check-ins uncover stuff like this, especially for first-time home buyers and for sellers, because the title company, a lot of information you get from a title company is confusing, right? You've never seen it before. You don't have to talk about closing statements, disclosures, escrow accounts. You're like, dude, I don't even know what this means. Hey, we want you to wire funds somewhere. I've never wired funds in my life. I don't even understand. How do you do that, right? Your clients don't know. And they're not necessarily just reaching out and calling people to ask these questions, right? But if you're doing your weekly check-ins, this happens to us all the time. Yeah, hey, actually, I did have a quick question for you. Where are we closing again? Or actually, I just got something yesterday from the title company about wiring funds somewhere. What does that mean? What do I have to do? Right? Or hey, they sent me these disclosures. I don't even know what I'm looking for. Well, great. Let's take a minute and walk you through that, right? Again, another example of you being able to provide stellar customer service and continue to provide value to them and answer those questions. And really just close any loose ends and make sure that they really know what's going on, right? Or if they ask you, because sometimes what they'll do is they'll ask you a question, you're like, I have no idea. But you'll say that, right? Or just say, oh, you know what, that's a great question. Let me call the title company and I'll have them reach out to you right away. Like we do that all the time. Or our clients will say, hey, we've reached out to the lender or we've reached out to the title company a couple times, we haven't heard back. So we will email the title company, CC our client, and lo and behold, they get an immediate response, right? Because our vendors know that customer service is an absolute must. So if they're slipping somewhere, we're gonna nicely hold them accountable and make sure that it gets answered. So let me give you a note about this real quick, because this is kind of going on recently in the area. There's a lot of scams out there. And right now, one of the scams that's going on is there are some hackers that are gaining access to real estate agents or title companies or lenders' email accounts. Then what they're doing is they're going through their emails, seeing what's going on, and they're emailing current clients wire instructions.
Heard that on the news this morning.
Did you? Yeah. So they'll look through your emails, they'll email the client and say, hey, just so you know, we need you to wire this amount to this account in preparation for your closing. And it's coming from that email account, which seems pretty legitimate, right? So there's plenty of people out there who are accidentally, wiring funds to crooks. Okay, so have some conversations with clients on the front end and say, hey, if anybody ever asks you to wire money, call me, call the title company, confirm that, or talk to your title company and say, hey, do you ever ask people to wire money? No, we don't do it. Okay, hey, if anybody ever asks you to wire money, that should be a red flag. Don't do it. Or give us some phone calls before you do it. Right? Have those conversations with your clients. What's going on? It's a big enough deal that it was featured on KARE 11 recently. So that was specific to the Twin Cities. I'm sure it's, your target's down here as well, but just keep that in mind. Closing disclosure. This is a huge one. Okay. The closing disclosure is federally mandated. It's a 5-page form. It might be a little bit different now. It includes loan terms. It's a basic premise, right? So the closing disclosure form is a super important form to you.
Buyer who's getting a loan.
To the buyer. So I'm going to say the closing disclosure goes hand in hand with the settlement statement, right? So closing disclosure and settlement statement. Who are they important to? So the buyer, lender,
Selling.
the seller, and and the agents. Yeah, the agents, right? A lot of times we get the disclosures or we get a copy of them sent to us, and we're like, okay, cool. But we don't critically analyze them or look at them. Right? Good. That's your job, right? Well, I'm saying this, I'm being transparent with you. First couple of years in the business, I just thought, okay, that's something the title company does. Cool, we got it. Any questions? No, like you need to critically analyze that sucker. What are we checking on there, Melissa?
Accuracy.
Of what? What are we checking for accuracy of?
The terms of our contract translated into the closing.
Terms, the sale price, earnest money, seller paid closing costs. Yeah. What else? Our commission. Right? That might be the first thing I check. No, I'm just kidding. But it's one of the things you check, right? Is the broker admin on there, right? There are certain things on there that we have control over that we can double check. I don't know what interest rate they have and all. That's a lender thing, right? They need to talk about that. But as far as price, closing costs, earnest money, commissions, all that stuff goes, we need to double check that. How many of you have ever received a closing disclosure or a settlement statement where the price was wrong? I have. For a good reason. How many of you guys have ever negotiated a deal and as a result of an inspection or an appraisal issue, the price got changed later on? Right? Have you ever done that with an amendment? So you sent the initial package to the title company or to the lender, right? They got that, they started the process. Oh, by the way, an amendment was done 2 weeks later, and either A, maybe the agent forgot to pass it along, or B, it got passed along, but it got lost in the shuffle, right? Well, unless you catch that right then and there, that's not going to be something that somebody changes, and you're either going to have to deal with it at the time of closing, or it's going to get missed altogether. In the worst case scenario, your client finds out about it later when they're reviewing the documents, and now they're like, hey, where's my additional $2,000? Right? And that's when you never answer your phone again. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. No, but you gotta get that figured out, right? So go through that closing disclosure and go through the settlement statement and check the accuracy of those things. Those are the big ones. Sale price, closing costs, earnest money, commissions. Those are really the 4 big ones you're looking for. Has anybody ever experienced any discrepancies at all when they looked at those before? You have? What'd you find?
The original amendment was never recorded.
Right, sure.
Yeah, that's what I meant to say, sorry.
Counter offer got missed, right? Or, because title companies, like, we're pretty familiar with the forms, we're good at them. Title companies are as well, but sometimes they hire new people as well, right? They don't necessarily know that they need to be looking for a counter, or maybe your counter offer addendum was the last thing you put in there when you scanned the whole thing. They went off page 1 of the PA, and then they didn't get all the way to the end to see, oh my gosh, wait, the price actually changed. It's now this. What I do when we send a package to the title company or lender, we summarize everything. Right? Hey, this is the sale price, or this is the closing cost, because otherwise they have to go through the contract and find all that out. That just there might be some errors in that process. Here's a summary, right? And if there's a change, we email everybody, we let them know about it, and then of course we're going to check for it when we actually review all the documents. So again, that's sometimes just part of the hand wave process of closing stuff. But no, you have an active role reviewing all that stuff. And oh, by the way, when should we be getting that stuff to review? Should it be the morning of closing? Hey, we close in an hour. Here's the settlement statement closure disclosures for you to review. How many of you have experienced that before?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Before the new law.
Before the new law. Right. Which is maybe why we have
Calling the title people, am I gonna get to see numbers before I show up to sign? Am I gonna get to see numbers before I show up to sign?
Right. It's part of prodding people along and making sure it happens. But now we're getting it at like a minimum. How far out?
In 3 days.
Yeah, I'll still get them maybe a day or so before.
Yeah.
Which is something, it is what it is. But my minimum is, hey, I want to see it at least the day prior. At least the day prior. I don't want it same day. I need it at least a minimum 1 day prior so I can do some review of it myself as well. Because if it's the same day, we're trying to make changes. Number one, I'm busy. Like, yes, I've got a schedule. I've got a showing scheduled. I might have a showing scheduled at 2 p.m. But that doesn't mean I'm sitting at my desk all day waiting at 2 p.m. for that closing. Yeah. I'm doing stuff. I've got appointments to do. So if something comes up the day of, I might be in the mix of stuff. And I don't necessarily have the ability to push pause. I might be teaching Ignite, right? I can't just pause, walk out of the room right now and go fix an issue, right? So we have to have that done prior to so that we have enough time for everybody to work through any issues that come up. Okay, closing. Final face-to-face meeting with the parties to conclude the transaction. Each party signs off the required documentations, all that fun stuff. Funds are presented by the buyer to the seller to satisfy the sale, and the seller receives their proceeds. Anybody ever had any weird, wonky, crazy closings? I know they're out there because I've had my fair share of them.
I think it's interesting that this is a face-to-face meeting, and in Rochester, it's very rare to have face-to-face.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
That's how it is in the cities.
I know. I was talking to somebody, I was like, you do what?
I don't use buyers. Really?
Yeah, same
In the
room.
same room?
Same room. I don't like it.
I don't.
I don't like it myself. Oh, look, this will be an interesting discussion then. Absolutely. In the Twin Cities, it's very customary. We're in the same room, very Minnesotan of everybody.
The buyer makes the arrangement with their title people, is that how it goes?
The buyer typically gets to choose location of the closing. But usually, that gets sorted out. We'll always tell them we have, if we represent the buyer, we always have the closing in our office, in a conference room, because it's easier for me.
But you have a title company right there on site, right?
Yes and no. We don't use the title company there on site. They come to us. That's part of expectations dialogue. Hey, if you're going to be our title company, we want our closings at our office when practical, right? So they'll close at our office, and what's nice is the buyers already know where that is. Right?
Yeah.
That's why, hey, it's at our office. You don't have to find a new place. It's super convenient for us because sometimes, what's the longest anybody's ever had to sit around at a closing?
2 hours.
A couple hours, hour and a half. Anybody else? I've definitely been at the couple hour mark, maybe a little bit more before. And usually, is it because you're doing something for a full 2 hours and it's just taking that long to do it, or is it because you're waiting on something? What are you usually waiting on, Chad?
Lender information, confirmation, you know what I mean?
You're waiting for the wire to be
Exactly, yep, that's exactly.
Almost always, you're waiting for funding. And here's the deal. I'm assuming you're busy people and you don't have time. Number one, you probably only budgeted about an hour in your schedule for that closing, right? You probably have stuff stacked after that, okay, right? So the fact that it's turning into a 2-hour closing is throwing a wrench in your entire day. Hey, I've got showings after this sucker, right? So that's why I prefer to close in my office, because if we're literally just sitting around or waiting for a wire, sometimes I'll tell my clients, hey, go grab lunch, go grab some coffee, and come back. And I'll just watch my office and I'll keep working. Then we'll come back and revisit and see what's going on, right? Hey, where are we at? What's the deal? What's going on here? Anybody ever had a closing that was awkward for other reasons? I guess maybe not, since you're not in the same room. We just had one where our buyer specifically requested separate rooms, right? Then you know something's up. I've had that maybe twice in my career where they said, hey, we don't want to be in the same room. Why? Because things get so contentious, right? Stupid stuff is happening.
Right, when we watch our back.
Yeah, right. But yes, closings can be goofy sometimes, but you know, number one, request that the closing be at a place that's convenient for you if you're representing buyers. Like we used to say, hey, you know, where and when do you want to close? We don't do that anymore. We'll go to the title company and we'll tell them what works from our schedule and where we're going to close. And then once they say what works, we let our buyer know, hey, closing's templated this time at our office. Will that work for you? Yes or no? And then we share it with the other people. And we'll book it immediately, because the longer you wait, what happens?
Schedule gets filled
The
up.
less options you have, because other closings start filling in your schedule, right? So be on the ball with that. Schedule it as soon as you can, and then don't hesitate to dictate it around your schedule, right? Or work with your clients and make sure it's kind of dictated around their schedule. And if the seller says, hey, we can't make that work, you say, great, go ahead and pre-sign. We don't need you there, right? Obviously, we're not paying like that. But hey, if it's going to be a huge fiasco to get this thing scheduled because you have a crazy schedule, I mean, I honestly don't care. This is what my buyer needs. You can pre-sign, and we'll close it when we close it, right? Or you can sign the day before, right? People get so bent out of shape about closing sometimes. You can pre-sign. It's not a big deal.
That happens a lot. Well, in fact, everyone I've had that's been that way.
The
So-
sellers have pre-signed. That's magical. I think that's such a good habit to get into. Because otherwise, what essentially happens at closing?
Something happened.
No, but
Right, you know what I mean? Like,
right. Well, let's say that this is a good closing and it kind of goes as planned, right? What essentially happens?
People get.
People get there. If you're in the same room, people sit around awkwardly, try to make small talk. You're like, what am I doing here? Let's get this over with. This is super awkward. Where do I sign? Right? Or if you're in two separate rooms, it still can be kind of awkward because you're just sitting there with people doing nothing, trying to make small talk, right? Like, what's going on? So if you can, and you're stuck there for as long as it takes, right? Versus if you pre-sign some stuff, right? It's gonna, because a lot of times, who's just sitting there literally waiting for things to be done because they've already signed everything?
Us.
The sellers, you guys, you haven't signed anything, but the sellers show up, they sign a couple things, and they sit there like this. And they watch the buyer sign all their lender paperwork. And this is the worst part, they're hearing all the financial details regarding the buyer. I mean, that's just super awkward. That's a terrible idea, right? So in the case in which they can sign beforehand or have separate rooms or something, it's just better. Signing ahead of time is huge because it saves the sellers a ton of time. And then all you have to do is call me afterwards and say, hey, great news, it's all finalized. You know, your check will be dropped off to you or your funds will be wired to your account. Big deal. Otherwise, they might get stuck there for an hour and a half waiting for a wire to come through. In the meantime, they're freaking out, right? Nothing's worse than you can tell something's going on with the closer or you're waiting on funds and you're kind of having to explain or tell everybody, hey, this, or the other. But if they are already pre-signed and that happens, they're not there to witness it. They just know that at the end of the day, they got their money, so they're happy, right? Does that make sense? Any other questions or thoughts on that? Recording and possession. The transaction becomes part of the record of the local government entity. Yep, got it. Buyer takes possession of the property that the seller has vacated unless the seller carryover or buyer pre-occupancy has been part of the contract. Anybody ever done an early move-in or rent-back agreement before? Okay, tell me about it.
So
Yeah, why?
something happened with the closing, and then I had to renegotiate the whole rent back if it wasn't written correctly by the agent.
So early move-ins or rent-backs, I just always say, try to find another option other than that if you can. That should be an absolute last resort, you know what I mean? Because you might be dealing with the most reasonable buyer you've ever met in your life. You might be dealing with the most reasonable seller you've ever met in your life, and you think, oh, this will be just fine. You know, we've got it all hammered out. You put it together, and then something crazy stupid happens, right? At all costs, if you can avoid an early move-in or a rent-back, just avoid it. But sometimes, you know, yeah, it's the only solvable option. It's the only option that solves the situation, so you might have to do it. Other than that, try to avoid it. I'll give you an example why. My mom also is in real estate, and this happened to her recently where she represented the seller, and they allowed a buyer early move-in. It was the only option they could do to keep the deal together for whatever reason. So she's a listing agent. They allowed the buyers to move in early, and almost the same day that the buyers moved in early, she got a phone call saying, from the buyer's agent saying, hey, they want to cancel the deal. And we're like, what do you mean? Like, number one, no. Number two, not going to happen. Number three, why on earth? Right? So who knows if we get the whole story or not? We can only speculate a little bit, but sometimes, has anybody here ever had buyer's remorse? Whether it's a house or just something else in general, right? Right? Well, sometimes people might move into a property and it's not quite how they remember it or not quite what they thought, or they might have a little bit of buyer's remorse. And now they decide they want to try to cancel the deal altogether, right? Well, if you never give them the opportunity to move in early, you can avoid that. So you're just going to close. So have the buyer's remorse too late? No, just kidding. They closed on it, they worked through it, but it's just don't do it if you don't need to. Or hey, you know, we'll close on it, but we'll let the seller stay a little bit longer. Well, what's going to happen?
The house is gonna burn down.
Exactly. Seriously, it's going to get trashed, or a hole is going to get put in a wall while they're moving stuff out, or something crazy. Or hey, yeah, when we moved out by the end of the month, oh no, we're not quite out yet, or we still need some time. Or no, I mean, just avoid it at all costs. Because once you close, there's a lot of power that both parties have up until closing. And once you close on that thing, you know, each party's giving up a lot of power, giving up a lot of stuff that they can hold over the other person potentially. So you got to make sure that when you close, you're feeling good about the situation in general. Okay, we'll move on to page 17, but let's take a little bit of a break. It is currently 11:09. Let's pick it back up at 11:15.
I've got a rental thing right now.
Oh Lord.
Naturals. We'll figure out your vacation plans.
Yeah, we're going to Great San Diego National Park.
In Colorado?
Yeah.
Can you go check out my property?
You have a property in
I'll
that
give you the
area?
address. Yeah, it's actually just a few miles from there.
Really?
Yeah, you guys are camping, right?
Yeah.
You want a place to camp? It's a beautiful place.
You have an indoor camping option?
It's not indoor.
Oh.
It's a plot of land that I bought 5 years ago to retire on. Oh, that's awesome. I used to live out there here in Sand Dunes.
Yeah.
So the Sangre de Cristo Mountains is what you're just south of.
Yeah.
Sangres is down there, and you're near Trinidad area. Which, by the way, if I remember correctly, has the highest rate of transvestite surgeries. Yeah. Trinidad, that's what we called it. It's a beautiful area. I used to live out in West Cliff area. West Cliff is
I'm like, I looked at the map once. My husband's like, there's all these like dinosaur tracks
It's
and
amazing.
ravines and things in the area. So
it is.
and my son's all like, dinosaurs? All right.
So Pueblo is here. Colorado Springs is up here. West Cliff is right here. Use your pen. I lived right there
Oh, wow. Right.
for a while. Yeah. So Cottonwood, we used to hike Cottonwood, Little Gibbs, Spread Eagle Peak. So we lived at Eagle Peak, so just south of that, right down here. So if you were following, I climbed Beckwith once. Beckwith Mountain, small lake. Both sides. Texas Creek Canyon City. Colorado City. Here's Pueblo. There. That's just south of the Springs. So when you guys go down there, you're going to jump into 67, take 96 to 69.
Yeah, I'm not sure how we're gonna end up going because we were gonna stop in Kansas City, but it turns out his brother is on vacation then, and so we're gonna come back to Kansas City. So we can turn around and go straight there.
Well, you could come straight down on 17 to 3 here and come up through Salida and be on this side of the mountains to come down. I would recommend, this is what I would recommend, come in on this side, go to the Great Sand Dunes, hop back out here on the 17 through Hooper and Moffett. Ugliest place I've ever been. And then it's just like, it's really weird, barren, like, it's just barren land. And then
We
come
like the
back
guys.
through Salida. I love Salida.
So where is this land that we're talking about?
So our land is a couple of years. So. See, this is what I mean by it's just kind of barren
Oh,
land.
yeah.
So you're going to the Great Sand Dunes here. On the other side, it's Rosita. So our lot is right where that little gold dot is. There.
My dog's
So I do, because I'm always like, oh, I'll show you where it is. And I'm scanning around. Like, oh, dude. So that's our driveway right there. Yeah, driveway. Hopefully you have a 4x4 you want to go.
No. Well, we would be family van.
You'll want to, we parked our SUV and walked this because it was so it's a switchback.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that
Oh, you come prepared.
looks at
Every time.
Every time. You don't mess around.
No.
Give
so
back
that
for big
looks at
fish for
the
you.
side race.
Yeah, sorry, didn't know you were gonna take a break 5 minutes after I got up.
Oh, it is.
Right into the mountains. And then south front, where the mountain comes up on this side.
Okay. So let's start on page 17, and this is going to be an interesting discussion because when we talk about systems and all that fun stuff, I know sometimes it seems weird, like, oh, what do we mean? What are we talking about systems for? What is our line of work, or what do we have to do with systems? Well, I'm telling you, they can make your life a lot easier, and they can ensure that you don't drop the ball on some stuff. So it's essential to have systems in place for pre-close, closing, and post-close. Okay? Pre-close, closing, and post-close. Having systems in place makes everything easier. It puts you in a position to recognize and handle any problems that may arise. Contract to close checklists. Working your way from an accepted sales contract to the closing rewards everyone. It requires everybody to follow the checklist, right? There are a couple in here for you. Understand them, use them as you progress in your business. You may modify them, etc. So tips, throughout the entire contract to close process, follow up regularly with the closing company and the loan officer to ensure everything's progressing on schedule. Both agents should attend the closing to be a resource to their clients. Does that happen in Rochester? You guys are still going to closings at least, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I know you guys aren't in the same room, but in other areas of the country, very common for agents not to go to closing, right? I'm kind of like, well, I need to learn your secret. Let me ask you this, do you need to go to closing? No. You really don't, right? So people freak out, oh, we've got this closing, might be out of town, this, that, or the other. Okay. Can you notify your clients that, hey, I'm not going to be there? Yeah. If you represent the sellers, could you say, hey, could you recommend that they maybe pre-sign a day or two ahead of time so you can be there for that if you can't be there on the actual day of closing? Could you maybe arrange for another agent in the office that you kind of like to potentially sit in on the closing for you if you can't be there? Yeah, it's not the end of the world. There's all kinds of things you can do to solve that problem. Yes, sir.
How soon can you pre-sign on as a seller and as a buyer? Like
You have to talk to the title company. You have to talk to the title company, and then pre-signing as a buyer is a little trickier. You really can't do it because funds are getting wired and stuff like that the same day. Just talk to your title company and see what options they have. For as far as the seller goes, usually, I mean, sometimes, fair amount out for closing they'll be able to sign. Or sometimes I've had title companies for people out of state or something send them the stuff. They sign it and send it back to the title company. You've done that before too?
I almost had to.
Yeah, that's the only reason why you would if you kind of almost had to.
Right, so they have to be able to overnight the package. So they can't be so rural as to not have FedEx in the area.
Right, or usually sometimes it requires a notary and stuff like that as well.
Yes.
But title companies are used to it. If you call title companies, they'll walk you through it. Or I've had a great closing agent once. She went and met the seller for me at a nursing home to go through the paperwork with her because obviously she couldn't necessarily get around too easy. So she went, did everything, and then came to closing and we got the job done. So you don't need to be there, but it's good if you can be there. Why? Yeah, sometimes questions come up, and it's just another great opportunity for you to have an interaction with them, right? Give them a closing gift. Congratulate them. If you're like me, you take a shameless picture with them. You put it on Facebook and you tag them in it, right? Now it's Carly these days. But it's your last opportunity to kind of share with them, chit chat with them, congratulate them, all kinds of stuff. That's why I go to closing. And for referrals, right? I don't go to closing because I'm so excited to be there, right? I go there because I want that one last interaction with my clients as they close and they're super happy. And oh, by the way, hey guys, congratulations. We'd love to host a housewarming party for you. We're going to be in touch with you about that. Just to talk about blah, 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 right? Setting the stage for the next meeting I'm going to have with them.
Do you see any closing companies regularly use like electronic signatures?
At closing?
Yeah.
Not really. What I have seen are I've seen some lenders bring like a tablet, and they'll have the clients fill out like a review right then and there at the time of closing, which is pretty slick. We've actually thought about doing that for ourselves because what our team Lucky Duck is really big on right now are getting Zillow reviews, especially if you advertise on Zillow, because Zillow reviews, they kind of help you with your rankings compared to other agents if you have more than others. And if somebody's looking at a bunch of different agents on Zillow and you have 20 reviews and nobody else has any, and they're good reviews, that makes it easier for them to pick you and do business with you. So what we've toyed around with the idea of is, because there's usually always some downtime. What always happens, everybody signs everything and the closer says, okay, thank you, I'll be right back. And they disappear to do closer stuff. We don't know what happens here. This is a Handwave magical thing. Right? Then they come back with checks, so we like whatever happens. You don't need to know what it is, but they come back and say, oh, we got checks, something good happened. But during that time, you're usually stuck sitting there for 10, 15 minutes sometimes, right? So that'd be a great time to say, hey, you brought an iPad along. We'd love to get a review from you if you wouldn't mind just taking a few minutes while we have some time just to fill it out. So you can get it right then and there. Because what we're doing is now we're capturing them after, or we're going back and asking for them. And it's much more difficult to do than if you were there time up and say, hey, would you mind doing this for us real quick? Especially if they know they're like.
Are you asking pointed questions, or is it just a comment section, or?
I think Zillow asks them one or two, and then they have the ability just to kind of write like whatever. And what we might do is, we might give them some suggestions about what to write about, or some things they could talk about, or show them some other ones. You say, yeah, these are some other reviews we have. You know, we're just looking for more reviews if you mind taking some time. And we'll email them, we'll call them, we'll text them. Sometimes it takes a text to get them to do it. Whereas if we just captured it right then and there, it'd be too easy to do, right? Too easy. So that's one takeaway for that you can do. You can utilize that closing. Again, just one last time to try to get some more out of that relationship. And again, like it says right, you're asking for referrals as well. It's a huge opportunity. It's a big deal. So on pages 18 and 19, you see some checklists that you can utilize. I am a huge fan of checklists. I should probably use them more often than I do. But it just helps you keep an eye on the transaction, how you're progressing, and more than anything, especially when you start juggling multiple deals, it'll help remind you where you are regarding that specific deal, right? Because if you've got 7, 8 deals pending right now, you might not remember. Oh my God, are we doing pretty well on this one yet? I don't know. Good problem to have, right? But it could be a potential issue if you don't have good tracking systems in place. So, I remember at one point when I started doing it, I got pretty old school, is I would do a manila folder per transaction, and I would print off a hard copy of everything. I would keep it in that manila folder, and then I kept a checklist on the you'd open it and my checklist was stapled to the left side, and my checklist was right there so I could go through and keep track of exactly where I was in the process of that transaction. Now I have Dotloop, which is a miracle worker. Now, I just track on Dotloop. It's pretty neat.
Dotloop has some nice checklists like
Oh my
this.
God, it's great.
And then it'll color your loop
Yeah.
as you check things
Oh yeah,
out.
Dotloop's good, man.
That's what I'm
A lot of people, they wouldn't get fired up about Dotloop. They just need to take time to learn how to use it. It's actually a phenomenal tool. Makes life a lot easier. Okay, let's move to page 22. Closing information. There are a lot of moving parts to closing. Prepare your buyers and sellers for closing by making sure they have and understand the information. Don't assume the buyer or the seller remembers everything from your buyer consultation or listing presentation. I'm telling you, that is true. I can tell who my smart people are, right? I'll have a buyer consultation, and then literally the next day they ask me the same questions. Right? It's like, God, I love you guys, but I've went over this 3 times already. And then you show them a house and ask the same question, and you get the house under contract. I ask it. I don't know if you just didn't like the answer I gave you or what the deal is here. But you have to remember, for us, it's easy because we're knowledgeable. We know the process. So sometimes we forget that other people don't know what a showing is, right? So you have to constantly reiterate information to them, help them understand it, answer questions, and give them an opportunity to ask questions, right? Since most transactions occur online with Dotloop, for example, you may not have to provide your clients with much physical paperwork, but it's important to make sure they have all the information they need. And that's one of the biggest things I like about Dotloop is I don't have to scan or email or copy the paperwork for them. It's all on a shared portal where they just have automatic access to it. So they can print it off if they want to and store it there forever so they can access it if they need to at any time. Plus at closing, they get off physical copies as well, right? But it's just a good place where they can go to. Or we can look at things together in real time and walk through it. Because it's on the same system, I know exactly what they're looking at. Maybe we could send messages within the system, etc. Closing information, important dates, maybe some information about what happens at closing, what they need to bring. What are some things that people need to bring to closing?
Their IDs.
Got to bring an ID. What else?
Checkbook.
You might need to bring a checkbook. You gotta bring your down payment check. Yeah, if you haven't wired funds, you gotta bring usually a cashier's check for the down payment. What else should you bring? There's cash for me, hopefully. No, I'm just kidding.
Thank you gift for your agent.
Yeah, that'd be nice. Usually a closing gift. What else? Yeah, I like your style. Some business cards. Okay. Somebody might need to bring some keys and garage door openers.
Oh yeah.
Right? Might that be forgotten every once in a while? When I'm done at closing, I want to be done, people. I'm done running around. I'm not gonna go run someplace to let somebody in to get this, or hey, we forgot one garage door opener here. That, oh, I need my lockbox. Oh, did you pull this down for my sign? No, we're done. Like I just told you, I've got appointments scheduled after this, right? So we will coordinate ahead of time. Listing agent, we're gonna do a final walkthrough. Do you want me to pull the lockbox for you and bring the keys and stuff to close it? Happy to do so. And what I'll usually do is I'll pull down their sold sign writer and everything, and I'll give it to them at closing. And they're super appreciative, right? I'll ask for permission ahead of time. Hey, while I'm there, do you want me to do all this, right? If I'm the listing agent, hey, buyer's agent, while you're at final walkthrough, would you mind doing me a huge favor? Will you pull off the lockbox and bring it to closing? Because now what do I not have to do? I don't have to go drive to the house anymore. I'm done, right? We're done. I don't want to see the house again. No, just kidding. But what are some things we can do to maximize and bring everything together at closing to be done with it all together? Mr. and Mrs. Seller, don't forget to bring all your sets of keys. Don't forget to bring garage door openers, etc., or leave them in the home on the counter, right? But we have to give some of that stuff to the buyers. Buyers, don't forget your ID. Don't forget your check that you're going to need, all that fun stuff. So remind them what they're going to be needing to bring to that. And give them an idea of how long it's going to take. Hey, closing's probably going to take about an hour, right? So be prepared for that. Page 23, dates for buyers. There are many things happening during closing. Here's an overview of important dates. Okay, the effective date of the contract, inspection deadline, and the timeline for it, the response. Really not doing a whole lot of termite inspections in the state of Minnesota. Is that different in southern Minnesota? I don't think so. Okay. Every once in a while, if you're doing VA business, every once in a while they bring up weird termite stuff. Right, it's just goofy. Loan application deadline, loan commitment due date, additional escrow date, and closing date. Okay, some of these dates are also important to remind the lender of as well. Hey, Mr. and Mrs. Lender, just a reminder, commitment letter due next Wednesday. Are we still in line to hit that date, right? Important dates to remember for the sellers, the effective date and the closing date, right? Things are a little easier for the seller. Page 24, talking about seizing the golden opportunity. Although the closing process may seem like the end, it's not. Okay? It's really just the beginning of another relationship. An expire, sell, referral, vendor, etc. Providing excellent customer experience for everyone involved, over communicating, setting and exceeding expectations is the key to seizing the golden opportunity. Now, when we say giving great customer service or a great experience to everyone, what do we mean by that? Let's break it down.
Even the other agent, like that.
The other agent, for sure, unless you're just a jerk, right? Because if you're a mean person to me, well, then I'll be professional, but I'm not going to go out and be kind to you, right? Most agents are nice, though. Some mean ones out there. But being super kind and professional to the other agent, who else?
Their clients.
Their clients. Hey, congratulations, very happy for you. Right? Thank you so much for working with us. We really appreciate it. Right? Who else?
Closers.
Closers. I'm gonna tell you right now, man. Closers, the closing agents, the people that come out and do that, they get the raw end of the deal a lot of times. Have you ever asked them what their schedule's like sometimes? Like the last Friday of the month, they're like, oh my, first off, they're like, oh my God, I'm so sorry I'm late, right? Because they're 10 minutes late because they just came from another closing that ran. Now they're at this one and this one's good. Like they have like 7 more afterward. I'm like, I don't know how you people do this, right? So that's like, especially a mobile closer who's traveling to all these different locations to do it, right? So being nice to closers goes a long way. Long way. Then the lender, if they show up and all kinds of stuff. So I'll tell you a story about being just, because if you're nice to everybody and you're very professional and you're communicating in communications with everyone and you're a good communicator, people will start to learn your reputation, right? And they know what to expect when something comes down the pipeline and it's, oh, we have another deal with Christine. Awesome. We can't wait. Oh, we have another deal with Sean. Hey. Right? You know what I mean? And I guarantee you this goes on in the office behind me too. Oh, another loop was just submitted by Nick. Awesome. We know it's going to be organized and prepared. Oh, we just had another loop come in from Melissa.
think it's the opposite. But
Yeah, I know. You give poor June a heart attack, right? She go, oh my God, I gotta go to town on this. She's gonna call you. Hey, you need to fix this, right? You start to get a reputation, right? Like I know because I hear stories. I know agents that do a great job with their paperwork, and I know the agents that give them a run for their money, right? Because if it gets so bad, guess who has to have a conversation with that agent? Hey, let's fix it.
I haven't had the conversation yet, but it's probably gonna come.
But some of that is, hey, do we need to do some more training too? You know, especially if you're new to the company. Absolutely. I'm just joking. Nobody should feel bad about their stuff right now. I'm just joking. But anyway, so we're known for being very, very, and we thank everybody for everything. You know, even if it's pretty trivial. Somebody sends us disclosures or an update. Hey, thank you so much for the update. We really appreciate it. Hey, thanks for sending this along. Appreciate it. Hey, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure working with you so far. We really appreciate your hard work. Right, small stuff like that. I had a closer once reach out to me a few years ago and say, hey, I've got a friend getting into real estate. You know, we really love working with you guys, and she's, you know, entertaining, you know, talking to. I said, hey, you should go talk to Zach. We do business with him all the time. He's a super nice guy. Go talk with him, right? Just by being nice to people, right? Lenders referring you business and vice versa, right? Just be sending out that good chi, man. Be sending out good karma because it comes back.
One of the downfalls of not closing all in the same office
Yeah,
is we don't get to know other agents.
sure.
And so that whole like sense of referral business or recruiting or whatever is like, well, I don't know them.
Right.
I had a property where it was tenant occupied, and so we just set up like kind of pseudo open house showing opportunities. Bring your client, show it during this pocket of time, please, because I don't want to have to disrupt tenants and all that jazz. And several of them commented to me, I kind of recognize it. Like, I think, is that so and so? And I had the RSVP list kind of thing. So
Sure.
is that so? Yeah, yep, okay. I don't even recognize agents around here anymore because
Right.
we don't close at the same table.
Yeah, that's kind of weird. Hadn't thought about that. What could you do afterward though? To everybody involved.
Something.
Send a thank you.
I'm gonna take them out for a beer.
That too. I'm gonna wait for my thank you from you. Yeah, send them a thank you, something. Invite them to coffee, happy hour. Toward the end of the year, we'll send stuff to lenders and title companies too, just thanking them because nobody else does. And here's what I know for a fact: if push comes to shove and we need something and we need a little extra help, they'll do it for us because they like us, right? Or if we're throwing an event, they'll be there because they like us and they want to support us, right? So think about that and how you can strengthen those relationships and the opportunities that are involved there.
Think of all the people involved in the entire transaction, especially the close: buyers, sellers, other agents, lenders, title companies, many more. It's important to always leave a great impression. One of the best ways to do this is to acknowledge and thank them. Always come from gratitude. Okay, I promise I didn't mean it. But it's absolutely huge. And then while you're there, and I know I say this all the time, and I probably sound like a used car salesman, but it's about referral business, right? What we do in our business in particular is we give them a closing gift. In the gift, there's a card that says, hey, it was an absolute pleasure working with you. Thank you so much. You know, we wish you all the best in your new home. Blah, blah, blah. We wish you all the best, whatever. Some business cards. And it says in there, if you come across anybody else, you know that we could help. We'd love to take great care of you, right? And then as they're leaving, again, I go back to that conversation of, hey, one thing that we like to do for our clients, especially when they buy a home, is we love to host a housewarming party. We'll provide all the food. And, you know, you can have people come check out the new home when you're ready. My assistant will be in touch with you to coordinate the details, right? And Kelly emails them, says, hey, what dates work for you? This is the food we'll provide. You know, do you want chicken or beef? How many people? No, then we say, here's an Excel spreadsheet. Fill it out with the contact information for everybody that you want us to invite. Send it back and we'll take care of the invites for you. I'm gonna tell you.
She figured it out real quick.
Your daily 10-4 gets a lot easier when people are adding to your database for you, right? Because now they're going to get email communication from us. First off, it's nice communication. Well, we're going to invite you to blah, 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 blah. And then maybe even a reminder. And then they're going to get something afterward. Hey, it was such a pleasure to meet you. at so-and-so's housewarming. Oh, if you couldn't make it, blah, 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 blah. And guess what? Now they're in our system. Now they're getting monthly newsletters and stuff like that, right? Is that a system? Absolutely. That's a system. And we have, I'll bring the statistics sometime, or maybe I'll teach a class on housewarmings in general. The ROI that we've had since we've implemented it, I think last year was the first year we did it, like through the whole year, is insane. Because it costs us maybe at the most $150 to do it. And we probably did 5 or 6 deals last year from those. So the ROI is insane.
You could actually do it if you were the listing agent for the buyer as well.
You could, but I would karate chop you. If you tried to host one, for my client, you mean?
Yeah.
Like if I bring the buyer and you sell the home, then you try to host their open house for my client. I mean,
But if you're not gonna do it.
yeah. Interesting move. I'm not gonna say it can't be done. And then invite the other agent.
After
Recording
we know about
it.
this house that's sold,
Right.
you can check it out.
Right. But seriously, it's given us an opportunity to meet even more people. Our clients are thrilled. They're introducing us to people for them. The food is good, so that's nice.
Yeah, you cater. I'm assuming you cater.
Yeah, we pull, we do a taco bar from Teresa's Mexican restaurant. I love the place. So the food, I like going because the food's good. We cater through them, but we pick it up and we just bring it. And then we don't leave anything behind, so we don't have to come back and pick anything up. And we just bring the food. We say drinks are on you. Like if you want to do alcohol and pop and all that stuff, that's on you. We'll bring the food, maybe a case of water, that's about it. And then it gives us a chance to meet a bunch of people, and we get a bunch of contact information because again, it's just the beginning of what we now want to do moving forward with our relationship. And they're going to get invited to client appreciation events. We're gearing up for, Carly already started talking to me about it yesterday. We're gearing up for May Day. On May Day, we go around and we drop stuff at all of our past clients in the area. We get May Day baskets from them. Last year, we did something different. I don't know if I'll do it again this year. We live streamed me dropping off every May Day basket at people's homes on Facebook. So like people still bring it up to me when they see me. They're talking, oh my God, that was so funny, that was so cool, blah, blah, blah. And what was funny is our clients started seeing it, so they're like ready and waiting for me throughout the day. Like there was one of my good buddies that rang his doorbell, he was just right there, just grabbed it, right? But we caught it on video, and it got shared, and people loved it. Free advertising.
What'd you put in your maybe basket?
They're tiny baskets. They've got a Team Lucky Duck sticker on it. We just put like a couple of suckers, and nothing big at all. A couple of suckers in there, and I think there was a tag that said, if you post this on Facebook with hashtag Team Lucky Duck or whatever, you'll be entered in a drawing to win a prize. So then we were just flooding social media with stuff, and it's all very, very free, low cost, fun stuff. One was funny. One of our clients, I rang and I left. They didn't catch me, but they have one of those doorbells that records. So they posted the video. They posted the video of me doing the ding dong ditch. Another client, she videotaped me from the window the whole time I thought I was being sneaky. I got it. And she's like, oh, she posted that. And I'm like, no, we caught you. Like fun stuff. One lady was like, they started interacting us. We're like, oh, where are you going next? They're like watching them all successively, like, oh my gosh. I mean, it's kind of cool. So we'll probably do it again this year. I don't know. It was a wake-up call for me last year, though, because I was like, oh my God, I am out of shape. I gotta hit the gym a little bit more before the next May Day.
Because of running up to the houses.
Yeah, well, Melissa, thank you. There was one in
From
particular.
walking a house
Like
visit?
a walk.
First off,
You're driving.
I was straight up running. There were dogs involved sometimes, okay? And there was one rural area where I swear to God, the driveway was like a mile long. So I came back. I ran all the way back. My wife's still recording. I'm like, turn off the video. I'm extremely winded. Go, go, go. But it was a good time. Okay. Remember, you only have one chance to leave a lasting impression. All right, so at that closing, make sure you do it. Agents have 2 agendas. 1, to move the current transaction toward closing, and 2, to ensure referrals. Most agents don't get that. Most agents don't get that. And it happens not only at closing, but afterward. Follow up with everyone, page 25. Some agents believe that the best time to ask for a referral is after
you have begun to deliver your customer experience commitments, but before things have had a chance to go awry. However, even when there are challenges during the transaction handled well, they can be opportunities to be your client's hero. I kind of alluded to this earlier, but has anybody ever had a closing and then afterward stuff comes up? Like stuff you don't even want to have to mess with, but it comes up. Anyway, I know it's happened, so let's hear some stories.
Homeowners insurance.
Okay, what about it?
So, the last one we closed on, they got notice in the mail middle of February, but they waited, you know, and then they were texting me about it 2 weeks later, and they said, Sean, what is this? I thought we had that all covered as part of the deal. And I clarified to them. Well, first of all, I called the lender right away.
It's probably just a solicitation.
What it was is, so obviously they have to have homeowners insurance paid for, receipt, in order for it to even close.
At least a year's worth.
And then they still got a notice of the bill or something, and it says, you know, your policy will be canceled if we don't receive payment by this date or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And so they, you know, got that confused with the home warranty.
Okay.
You know, so they were, you know, thinking like, I don't know, like I didn't do something.
But just something weird came up, right?
Yeah.
And it forced them to call you.
Yeah, or text me, yeah.
Or text
And they were upset, you know, they were confused and kind of
Absolutely.
maybe upset, and I had to kind of like, oh, no.
Yeah. And so did you solve the problem?
Oh, yeah, totally, yeah, 100%.
And
Well, the problem was solved, it just
Right.
confusion.
You answered their question and you put them at ease, right?
Exactly, yeah.
Is that not a phenomenal opportunity to re-engage with clients right then and there?
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely. Hey, I'm so happy we were able to get that figured out for you. I'm glad things are going well. If anything like that ever happens again, please do not hesitate to reach out. You know how important it is to us that our clients feel that they're well taken care of. Speaking of that, if you know of anybody who is looking to buy or sell, we'd love to work with them to ensure that they're well taken care of. Does anybody come to mind? Right? You just have to do it. You really have to do it. What are some other post-closing stories? Because that's a mild one. That's an easy one.
The title people paid the property taxes, and the bank paid the property taxes at closing time.
Yeah.
And
We just had a property tax issue surface on one of ours recently.
and then it was figured out, and they called the county and said, it appears that double payment has occurred.
Mm-hmm.
The county sent the refund back to the bank, but this was the buyer's bank, and my seller is the one who
Overpaid.
overpaid in this situation, and
So it's like, where'd this money go? How do I get it back to the right person?
yes.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
the county just sent it back to the bank and the bank received it, accepted it without figuring out who it belonged to, and
Right.
jumping hoops with that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And did you have to call and work through and get it figured out?
I really didn't end up,
Did
this
the
was
title
like,
company handle it?
he worked with the title company, and I heard about the story after the fact.
Okay, sometimes that happens too. Sometimes that'll happen to me, by the way, when I show up to housewarmings. I get the, oh, well, the such and such happened. I'm like, oh God. But they're usually cool about it. Well, this is what we did, and I'm like, oh yeah, I said, the joys of home ownership, right?
Yeah.
But we build that into the consultation. You know, owning a home is like owning a car. There's maintenance along the way, right? You gotta do upkeep. So I'm gonna get back to Sean's point. We'll have people call every once in a while because they'll get an escrow statement in the mail. And they've kind of forgotten about what that is, or they don't quite understand it. Or they'll say, hey, my mortgage payment's going up. How is that possible? Well, your property taxes probably go up, right? Or your homeowner's insurance, right? One of the two, because those impact that monthly escrow payment. They have an escrow, which can bump it up, right? I've been in my home for 7 years, and over that 7 years, it's probably gone up about $150 a month over time, right? It started at about 15, now it's at about 16.50, right? $150 a month for some people, that's a huge difference, right? So they're going to call you and ask you what's going on here. Yeah, per month. Yeah. Well, think about it. I bought in when did I buy? 2009, and what were property taxes doing at that point in time? They were going down. 2009, property taxes were going down. Now it's 2017. What are property taxes started doing? Coming back up, right? So my property taxes are going up a little bit every year. Well, my monthly payment is going to get increased a little bit every year because part of my monthly payment is going for property taxes, right? Also,
My homeowner's insurance is what's gone up substantially. Because sometimes what homeowners insurance companies will do is they will quote you a super low price initially so that you'll lock in with them. Then over time, when the policy renews, they jack that price up. Or maybe something happened and there was a huge claim, and now they're increasing all their policy premiums to offset what they just paid out, right? So your clients can shop around homeowners insurance all day long. They can change it on an annual basis, right? So guess what we did? Get quotes from other places. Like if you're going to jack up my premium that much, we're going to switch company and do homeowners insurance through somebody else, right? So there are things you can help, and that's a huge value add to clients. They'll call me and say, hey, my payments are going up. Okay, is it a property tax thing? So send me a copy of the property tax thing, is it a homeowner insurance thing? Hey, here's what I consider. Reshop on your homeowner's insurance. Huge value add, right? Huge value. Or sometimes, Sean, they'll get confused by stuff they get in the mail, because you guys have probably gotten this too. You get something in the mail about your current mortgage and about how you need to refinance at a lower interest rate because you qualify for the greatest program that just was passed by President Obama, right? So they make it sound so official. You're like, oh, President Obama did what? Oh, new interest rate. Sign me up. Well, no, read the fine print, right? Or it's something to do with the escrow thing, or they're quoting your property taxes or homeowners insurance and stuff like that, right? They're going to have questions. Let them know to call you. Be a resource. Don't ignore those calls. Answer those questions. Be a resource for them, right? But there are other post-closing issues that aren't necessarily as easy or fun to solve, right?
Homesteading. That's another
Homesteading. We have our system automatically sends an email about a month after closing, reminding them or asking them if they had a chance to homestead their property. And of all the deals we did last year, I know off the top of my head at least 2 people pinged back, and one said, thanks for the reminder, we'll go do it right away. And the other one said, what are you talking about? Right? Again, it's one of those frustrating things where I know we talked about it because I talked about it, the closer talked about it, and they're like, what are you talking about? So what we did is we said, hey, we'll call the closing company and make sure. Lo and behold, the closing company just took care of it for them. We were able to let them know that, right? Our people are getting immediate responses to questions. It's all about communication because that's how you get clients for life. And that's how they refer people to you. They know that if they call you, you're going to get them the answers that they're looking for. You're going to help them. That's the best thing you can possibly do. Okay. But what are some other less fun post-closing items or phone calls that you get sometimes? Absolutely. Hey, we've got water. Hey, the air conditioning unit does not work. Yeah. Hey, we bought it in the wintertime. The disclosure said the AC unit works just fine. We couldn't test it because it's cold outside. Now we bought it. We go to fire it up and it doesn't work. Hey, we've got a little bit of a discrepancy there, right? So now we have to go to work. And those are the phone calls I hate getting, right? Those are the worst ones because there's no easy solution, or like you're gonna have to recall some people. And like I said before, once you close, a lot of both parties lose a lot of power, right? So we no longer really have a mechanism to hold them without things getting a little bit hairy, unless everybody agrees to make a change or find some sort of settlement, right? But again, you should never run from those things. Because you can take a phenomenal transaction and by, providing terrible after closing service or not getting back to people, pretty much throw it in the trash can. Because that's all they're going to remember. All they're going to remember is, hey, we had an issue. We tried to call Cole about it a couple times and never got back to us. The deal went great. We're happy with the home, but the dude never got back to us about a question. So that's all they're going to remember about you. Versus, hey, we called Cole and same day he got back to us, explained to us what was going on and found a solution. Or even if it's just, hey, we told Cole about the AC unit, he let us know that he was going to explore some options. He told us that he contacted the listing agent, we contacted the sellers. The sellers said they weren't going to do anything about it and he let us know. At least he did something, right? Even if the answer is no, at least they know you did something. Or said, hey, here's the deal. They're not willing to do anything, but here's what you could do. Remember that arbitration agreement you signed? There's some information on there. If you really want to, we can pursue that. But that's your choice, your decision. If you need anything from me, let me know.
On arbitration, you have to have evidence. Like it's just a matter of it didn't work, but the last time the sellers had it, it was working. If the neighbor's like, oh yeah, they sweated out the end of last summer because it failed.
Right.
There you have what you need to do arbitration, but they have to go and find something beyond just it's not doing it for them.
Well, and here's my personal opinion on it. when in doubt, give it a shot. What do you have to lose?
Yeah.
What do you have to lose? I had some clients get $7,000 in arbitration for some window stuff. And again, I wasn't there, like, this was one of those after the fact things. Like, I gave them all the arbitration information. You know, we tried everything. Hey, here's the arbitration information. Here's what you would do. I said, call me. I'm happy to come to the actual arbitration. We're more than happy to be there. I didn't hear about it until after the fact. He's like, yeah, we got $7,000. It's like, oh, cool, dude. And thanks for not making me feel like I had to be there. But I don't know what they were able to prove or not prove. What I do know is sometimes the arbitration process sometimes reaches a happy win-win. Right? Even if there's nothing, even if there's not a smoking gun, sometimes people just want to be done, or the arbiter will listen to both sides and just kind of make a determination, right? So when in doubt, give it a shot. Are you going to say something cool?
No.
Were you going to say something?
Yeah.
But you decided not to?
Yep.
Did I make you mad?
No.
Okay. Well, if it comes back, you let me know.
Okay.
I'm just teasing. Okay, if you have given your client a great customer experience, now is the best time to ask for referrals and testimonials. How many of you guys are taking the next step and asking for testimonials? Yeah, good. Keep systematizing that. Make sure you get that every time. It's huge. You can take testimonials with you to listing appointments. Because they're happiest at that point, typically. Everyone has reached the outcome they desire. You've shown your professionalism multiple times throughout the transaction. Be sure to add the client on the other side of the transaction to your database for devious slicksters like Christine. Just kidding. As the NAR statistic makes clear, the chance that their agent will orphan them after the transaction is very high, providing you the opportunity to adopt them as a client for life. So if you make a great impression during closing and they know of you, they may choose to seek you out again later when they do a transaction. Especially absolutely.
Everybody's looking with like daggers.
Well, no, well, yeah, you're good. Just make sure they're not related to the agent before you do that. Touch campaigns are the single best proven tool for enlarging your real estate universe. Closing should be a signal to you to start your client on a 33 Touch program immediately and add all participants to your database, including agents, lenders, closing officers, if they're not already. Now, they might not be they're all getting the same messages from you, right? But they all can be getting consistent communication from you in the form of a 33 Touch campaign. Call your new past clients. The buyers and sellers you just closed are now members of a special club that you host. Get that new phase of your relationship started with a personal phone call to them within 1 to 2 weeks after closing. See how they're doing in the next phase of their lives, thank them again for their business, and ask for referrals. NAR fact. NAR reports that 88% of clients say they would use a real estate agent again, but only 12% do. Don't be in that 76% that loses touch with their past client. If 88% say they would reuse their agent, but only 12% do, what does that tell you? What's the disconnect?
The follow-up after.
It's a follow backward. Right? They don't know how to get in touch with their agent, or another agent beat them to the punch. One of the two, right? So that's why that follow-up is crucial. And just as a reminder, the average person does how many real estate transactions in their lifetime? The average person does how many real estate transactions in their life? 7.
Oh, I mean, by yourself, okay.
Yep, 7. Yep. And 7 seems like a lot, but it adds up quick because you buy your first home, and then you sell and buy. So what does that put you at? 3. You're already at 3, right? So if you sell and buy 1 or 2 more times, you're already at 7. So it's pretty quick. And I'll let you calculate how many commission dollars that is. It's a pretty penny. Check the time here real quick. A few minutes. Page 27, customer service focus. Follow this process, use the tools, etc., to really up your customer service game. The benefit for you as a past clients who advocate for their friends to use you, just easier appointments to go on, right? You're going to win that business. Ask for feedback on your service from all parties. Send them a handwritten thank you note. That's huge. Include maybe a few business cards in there. We do, have you seen those magnetized notepads you can put on the fridge? So we have Team Lucky Duck made ones on the final walkthrough. We slap it on the fridge before we leave, so when they move in, it's already there, right? So if I come to the housewarming and it's not there, I know they took it down. No, I'm just kidding.
Put up another.
I put up another one. I go through all their kitchen drawers. Here it is. No, but what's nice is we'll come through the housewarming and I see it. It's being used. Right? So now they might get one from us every so often. Right? Movie tickets, gift baskets, gift certificates, gift cards to coffee shops. That's huge. Something that they'll need in their new home. All kinds of stuff. Always keep a good amount of business cards coming. Mayday baskets. Keep in touch. Maintain regular contact and use the scripts practice throughout the night to ask for referrals. Remember, you need to stay at the top of their mind. Even if they won't be conducting a real estate transaction in the future, chances are they'll know somebody who is. And right now, they're talking real estate with everyone because of their move. People are literally asking them right now, oh my gosh, how's your new place? Oh, I love it. I'm so glad we decided to move. Yeah, we're thinking about doing the same. Oh my God, you should call us. Right? That's what you go, oh, well, cool. You're coming to my house for me. My agent's going to be there. I'll introduce you. Cool. That's what we're looking for. Right? Number 4, get paid. Minorly important. Most real estate commissions have rules that require files to be turned in, blah, 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 so they can be audited for compliance, etc. To ensure the funds are dispersed at the closing table or as soon as possible, begin this process as soon as the contract is pending. So this would just be a housekeeping reminder from the office to have your loop squared away, organized, and submitted prior to closing. How far before closing can you have your loop squared away and submitted to include a green sheet?
As soon as you're under contract.
Pretty darn, yeah, we usually wait till after the inspection in case some things get renegotiated there. But after that, once inspection's done, you can pretty much shoot your green sheet and your loop in because there really is probably not gonna be that many changes unless an appraisal issue comes up or something. But other than that, you pretty much know what you're working with, right? So there's no reason like a month out, you can't have that stuff already turned in, organized, and submitted to ensure you get your check back as soon as possible, right? Let's get that example. Page 30. If your client signed a contract today, would you be ready? Make sure you're fully prepared by having your support team and other resources lined up. Review the action items below and indicate the ones that you already actually away. So, do you add them to the database? Do you have added resources to the database? Are you doing things like having a follow-up? All that fun stuff. So, let's wind it down for today there. Any questions, any ahas, any feedback from today's session? Getting it to actually close.
I can tell you a fun advertising thing that I did that you just reminded me of.
Good.
The magnetic thing. So I ordered the 2017 magnetic calendars.
Oh, cool.
And I was trying to get them out. So I was in Stewartville and I was like, stopping at Casey's and carefully lacing these out. No, it's no problem. And I went to the second quick trip and they're like, I don't know. And I said, well, how about this? How about if you just, they were doing pizzas. How about if you just take one every pizza?
Oh, nice.
Oh
my gosh.
And they did it. I know.
That's huge.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Very cool.
They don't want to lay them on the counter, so they take them to the pizza because they didn't want the managers to see them. But they take them out, give them to the pizza delivery. That's what we need. Joel, find that one.
What else? So the biggest thing I want you to take away from today is to view the closing a little bit differently. It's not just closing, it's done, I'm getting paid. It's really a huge opportunity for you to strengthen that relationship and really just begin the process of now having a client for life and looking at them as a great source of repeat and referral business if you continue to invest in that relationship that you've already had, right? That's the biggest thing possible. And it's I think, one of the things that kind of falls by the wayside in a lot of agents' businesses because they're very transactional. On to the next one, on to the next one. Don't forget about that amazing pipeline you just built. Stay engaged and in touch with those people because they're my best source in my business. They're my best source. We had a friend from high school reached out to sell his place. He and his family, very nice family, they moved to Detroit Lakes. Well, I don't do business in Detroit Lakes, obviously. But guess what? They still get newsletters and stuff from us. And his wife, just last month, reached out to us on Facebook and said, hey, my brother is going to be buying a house in the cities. Can I put you in touch with him? I said, yes, please. No, that's okay.
But
But you gotta stay in touch.
I helped my first clients actually move into their new house, right? So I used Greg's truck and I spent 6-7 hours that day helping move.
Did you get beer and pizza?
Huh?
Did you get any of the beer and pizza as a result? Or
No, actually they did have dinner, but I was in a rush to get to the other jobs downtown, you know. So
Okay.
they were like, "Oh, you're gonna stay and eat with us?" And I'm like, "I can't. I really
That's
gotta
okay,
get
just
going."
do me a favor,
Yeah.
just send me a referral instead.
So
You
yeah,
guys
they got
look-
their house in Vegas that they're gonna sell. So I'm gonna hook up with a KW agent there. for a
Absolutely.
referral, you know.
Absolutely.
So that's cool. And then I got to meet their family too, so that's nice. You know, so if they ever have anybody moving into town, I'm, you know, been making sure I'm on my phone.
Very good.
And they
So,
expect you to help them too, though.
Maybe, but that's
just so you
one of the
guys
things,
know,
though.
I got a bad back.
I want that to be part of my business. Like eventually, you know, maybe get some kind of a moving truck or something you know,
Absolutely.
down the road and have that for people to use.
Sure.
And me as well. You know, I'll have my brother help me or something like that.
What's the new brother?
Yeah. You know, but I don't mind doing that stuff. Yeah, exactly.
I did that as an outreach, just in January, somebody on, our youth pastor at church on Facebook said, anybody be able to help me move? It was the middle of a cold weekday,
Yeah.
and I'm like, sure, I'll be there, I'll bring my van. And they were moving out of her parents' basement into a house sitting gig, and in 9 months,
They're gonna buy it.
they're gonna buy something.
Boom.
Oh.
Right.
I have all these questions, but I don't know who to ask because there's a lot of realtors in our church.
Hello.
But now you can ask me.
Yeah, coming up to move.
They weren't here yet.
Very good. Well, thanks everybody. I really appreciate it. Have a great day and get out there and make it happen.